Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. Today in this video, we're going to do some mouth studies. I'm going to do portrait drawings focused specifically on the mouth area. And in this video, I want to focus specifically on the pockets of fat. So your face has areas that collect fat. So I want to really study the pockets of fat and skin folds that create the various shapes and forms that we draw when we draw the portrait. So if you want to improve your portraits, especially your mouths, maybe your faces are looking a bit flat and you want your mouths to feel more full, more round, more 3D, and you want your portraits to feel like they're about to start talking, you'll definitely want to stay to the end because I'll show you some very simple techniques that help me do that and also share some of the knowledge that I've learned in my recent deep dive into face and mouth anatomy. And if you're new to me, my name is Chris Legaspi. I'm a professional artist, author, and NMA instructor. So this whole thing started really as a big burning question in myself. What is going on exactly with the mouth? I had a rough idea. I know a little bit of base level of anatomy, but I really wanted to refine my knowledge, expand my knowledge so I can really have this area down. And, I got a lot of requests from my students and mentees. I teach head drawing as well. So I needed to know exactly what's going on here. So I did a deep dive. I studied first the big muscles, and it's really cool. There's not that many. You can see this little study on my screen. And then I also studied and looked at and examined the pockets of fat. Is that what I think is really cool to help shape the basic forms? Because a lot of the muscles we can't see because they're underneath tissue, skin, and fat. So that's what this video really is here. So I'm starting with the drawing.
And before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my free Insiders Club. Insiders Club members get first access to these weekly live streams, and you also get access to other live events, and you get discounts on courses and programs, along with access to free lessons and other free content available only to subscribers. So all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email and you'll be good to go.
As you can see in this drawing, has been sped up quite a bit. Here. Did a little um, head study in pen. That's what you see here. Now I'm adding some tone. So obviously starting with the eyes and things. And when I get to the mouth, that's when I'll really start to examine uh, my knowledge. That's all this really was. And this is kind of how I learn anatomy. First, I hit the books and then I try to apply it. And for me, applying is a combination of athletics and even massage. So as I was drawing, I massaged my own face and go, okay, this is where the fat pocket is. Oh, this is the skin fold. Oh, this is this muscle. This is zygomaticus. So massage is a part of what I do. Okay, so now in the drawing, I'm starting to transition from the eye structures into the mouth, the cheeks and mouth, make my way down. So this is a real important transition. Now we're getting to zygomaticus. And one of the reasons why I picked this reference is because this model didn't have, or in the photo, didn't have a big pocket of nasolabial fat that we expect to see here, right here. So he's kind of like this. That was really cool. And obviously you can see the clearly defined muzzle. So I wanted to get that and the clear cheekbone in relationship to the muzzle. And it's most likely this is zygomaticus major and the muzzle mass, which is really what you see here. What you see here now is me drawing the muzzle mass. And that is mostly orbicularis oris, the muscle. So now I'm going into the chin. And the chin is interesting because in the chin, we have a bunch of muscles, some that go this way, some that go this way. Triangularis is one. But in this particular case, the one that I wanted to focus on is called the mentalis. So just see that big crease right here? Mentalis pushes your mouth lips out. You lower the pouty pig. So when you see that crease, that's the mentalis being active. It's a muscle. And obviously his face is so lean, but you can still see lots of cool, interesting skin folds. So that's a combination of skin folding and a bit of fat, but the main driver is the mentalis. Here on the side of his face, his cheek, obviously very little cheek fat here. If it is, it's He's purposely sucking it in, and that's revealing the master. So that big thing detail you see in the shadow, that's the muscle. That's your big masseter muscle. That's for chewing. And you can see it transitions from the masseter risorius, transitions into the mouth mass, which is not really visible. But all this other stuff, I believe that's skin fold and the natural shape of some of these muscles, triangularis, and also uh, some of the levator labia superioris. It's underneath the zygomatic, so it's a muscle, but again, um, it's quite hidden by the stuff on top, the tissue on top. Here I'm going on to the cheek and the shadow side. So really what I'm just trying to do is frame the mouth. So this was a mouth exercise. And I think I did a pretty good job of framing the mouth. Now I'm going to just kind of complete the drawing here, starting with the hair, the forehead and things. So this is not what this is about, but thought it'd be important to leave in. Now I'm going back to the face. So you can see some indication of detail here. And believe me, I do see the detail, and I'm sure you do too if you're watching. But again, the magic of realism is to suggest detail, not to explicitly draw it all the time. So it looks like detail, but I'm leaving a lot of it out. I'm suggesting a lot of it. Now I'm going back to the top plane of the muzzle. In this case, it's mostly uh, the little bit of fat he has and the big tissue of orbicularis oris. Not much going on there except for the side, and that's what you see. That would be probably the zygomatic, then transitioning into the other mouth anatomy, and then that's what we're going to cover next. I'm now going to go over my drawing in detail and kind of see how well I did in capturing the anatomy, specifically the fat. The most obvious thing is the muzzle mass, so that's a huge priority for me. Let me do that in black, actually. You can see it clearly. I care a lot about that. You can see how clear and beautiful that is. I'll kind of show you a little bit what's happening here. So we know number one is the main muscle group is around the mouth and lips is orbicularis oris. Orbicularis oris, and that's basically this. So most of that mass you see is actually that muscle, orbicularis oris. It's a big round sphincter-like muscle, totally round. It's actually four pieces, but that's it. That's it. That's number one. So that's obvious. Now we saw, like I mentioned, nasolabial fat should be here. Let me draw it in blue. On the model, it's so tiny. So it's actually, I believe it's only this. Let me draw it in blue here. I believe it's only this little piece, and it kind of stops here because what's happening there is one of the zygomatic muscles. I believe that's zygomatic minor or major. It's one of these finger-like muscles here. So that's a muscle. So that's kind of creating that little corner there that's flowing into the ball, the muzzle of the mouth. That's going into the meat of the mouth. And then what's interesting about this is obviously his very little cheek fat or it's sunk in. That big mass you see was the masseter. So that's muscle over there. Now let's get to the underside, what I see here. So I believe this, all of this stuff here that I drew, let me draw it in blue here. So this is nasal inferior labial pocket, fat pocket, something like that. Labial inferior, right here. So he has very little fat because he's doing something like this. It's popping out, and you have some fat on your cheek. I forgot what it's called. That's what these little folds are. So that's skin and fat. But the main thing that's driving that is called the mentalis. The mentalis pops your lower lip out like that. So he's kind of doing that. So that's mentalis popping that out. So when I see this hard crease, I go, okay, the mentalis is active, and then you can see the wrinkles. So the wrinkles and folds is confirming that the mentalis is active, pushing the lip out, creating this crease, and then causing all these wrinkles. Not much fat here. What else do we see? Uh, we see some detail here, but this is muscle. So this is, I believe some of these wrinkles and folds are related to a muscle called triangularis, which is depressor anguli something. The depressor anguli oris. It's this muscle here. It's corner shaped. That's what's forming these skin folds, and that's really about it. That's all I see. The top is mostly thing, orbiculus oris. I don't see these other depressor muscles here. I forgot what they're called. They go like that, but definitely the fat that I wanted to study. Not much is there, but knowing that this lower half nasolabial is kind of clear in this example relative to that, so that kind of helps me a lot. So I think this study was a win. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, starting with the second drawing here. And I'm just going to go and quickly tone and render this drawing here, this little lay-in. And the reason why I chose this particular model, this particular subject, is because he has almost the exact opposite fat distribution of the first example. So here he has a lot of fat, nasolabial fat, as you can see right here, but not so much on his lower half. Or at least it's not visible in this pose. Thought this would be a nice contrast to have here. So I'm just going to go quickly add some tone here. Now I'm working my way down to the mouth, starting with the eyes here, getting a little bit to the cheeks. Now I'm at the mouth and chin. Now I'm starting to pay attention. This is about a mouth study. And one of the important transitions is actually from the nose down to the cheek, and then from the cheek to the nose mouth area. So that's what I'm focused at here. So the shadow side is pretty simple. Here I'm getting some of the lips. So his lips are kind of tucked in. Not a lot of wrinkles, but not a lot of stuff happening here. He has a lot of interesting stuff happening in his neck. Typically old men, older men. Just very interesting little details to draw. So it's you got to stay disciplined. All right, here we're getting to the nasolabial. This is what I was after. This is the main thing here. So I'm carefully drawing and thinking what's going on. It's clearly this big pillowy kind of form. So form-wise, it's kind of easy. But what's more important is how it relates to everything else. So that's what I care about. And for me, it was more also too like, what's happening underneath it? What's happening next to it? What's happening around it? Is it making a skin fold? Why is a shadow there? So these are the kind of things I'm thinking about as I render these skin folds here. So now we're kind of getting to the nose, back around the mouth, back around the eyes. It's quite a complex drawing, so you'll see me hop around a lot. He has also interesting eye shapes, obviously. Now getting back to nasolabial shapes, interesting cheek shapes, beautiful, interesting wrinkles. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there wrinkle-wise, but I do know about the fat distribution now, so that's what I was paying attention to. Underplane of his cheek there. So it's you can see a little bit more fat than the other model as it goes into his masseter muscle, which is visible. Then just now, just trying to finish the drawing here. Really trying to make the drawing make sense. I got the core details that I wanted down. Basically, this fat here, is fat around his cheek, and the details and skin folds around his mouth. Now getting back to his chin and jaw. So everything that I need is there. It's working. I'm pretty much ready to start analyzing my work here. And really, I'm just refining the details now. So this is starting the detail pass, but the main forms are there. The main mouth anatomy that I want to study is there. Now would be a good time to do an analysis here. Okay, let's do an analysis now of my drawing, and we'll see how well I captured the mouth anatomy. Okay, so first thing I notice is, and my first priority in drawing the mouth is make sure the muzzle mass is there. So that we can clearly see. So you can see his wrinkles just basically flow over the muzzle mass on both sides. This off cheek too. I'm going to draw on the reference here. You can see that line right there. That is one of the folds under clearly the eyes, but what I'm looking for is the bucolabial group, and that is leading into the levator labia alicu nasi superior something. This one here. So that's part of what's happening there, and then also the fat pocket in there, then transitioning into the orbicularis oris. So on our model here, on our reference, I believe it looks something like this. I'll try to draw it in pink. It's kind of hard to see on our model here because lots of skin happening there. Can't quite see in this, kind of hiding the orbicularis oris. But I believe it's there. So that's my assertion in my drawing. Now let's talk about the fat pockets here. On our model, there's clearly a big fat pocket here, and it's mirrored on this side. So that's nasolabial. And it's also a little bit of fat kind of here. This is most likely a zygomatic bone. So that's a bit of the cheek fat. Little bit of, I'm not quite sure what that fat is. So there's obviously a little bit of fat here, but we can't see it because it's not as pronounced, especially not as pronounced as here. So that is labial inferior fat pocket, something like that. I forgot what it's called, but that's what it's the lower. Inferior means below your lip. Superior will be up here. So this is inferior fat, lower fat. And on my drawing, it's there, obviously, but it's minimized, but I clearly exaggerated and emphasized the upper fat pocket nasolabial. That's what this whole drawing was about, really, was to study this. So I feel mine reads pretty well. It's got that nice underplane right there. You can see that nice clear definition, that hard wrinkle right there. I'm not 100% sure what's causing that, but it's most likely the junction. Well, there's masseters here. So as we saw in the other model, probably a little bit of fat over time is creating a skin fold. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not 100% sure, but there's fat, there's a masseter there, and this is bone. And then up here, you see a little bit of sort of the cheek fat. And then up here is all eye fat, which for another video. But so far, this looks pretty good. Again, we don't see a lot around his upper mouth and not a lot of his lower mouth that I called out here. It's very, very little, but beautiful cheek and specifically his nasolabial fat. Pretty strong. So I think, you know, for my drawing, this is pretty good. This is a good analysis. Let me just double check. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I got this nasolabial here, right there. We see it on our model. A little bit of cheek fat here on my drawing. That's bone, but this little nugget is a bit of cheek fat. That's what I'm assuming, and you can see it right there on the model as well. And then the eye fat, obviously, I drew, but not so much the focus. And then, like I said, minimized in my drawing. And that's really it. You see a little bit of on my drawing, a little bit of indication of, I believe it's called middle cheek fat right here. But this is also a combination of his masseter muscle, his huge chewing muscle, masseters right here. So that's some of that, probably more masseter, a little bit of fat. But overall, I'm pretty happy with my drawing as a study of face fat. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video and you want more head drawing resources, I got a lot of free downloads and a free portrait drawing course available on my website at www.drawwithchris.com. Make sure to subscribe to my email list, and I hope to see you in the next video. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.